On the night I turned 29, the banquet hall glowed with crystal chandeliers, and the chatter of my husband's family filled the air like a festive hum. My father-in-law Carlos stood to present his special gift. Carlos always had a flair for theatrics. Dressed in a sharp suit, his silver cufflinks catching the light, he held a glass of red wine in one hand and a sleek envelope in the other. Cream-colored, tied with a gold ribbon, the kind you'd expect for a grand announcement. The guests leaned in, their faces alight with anticipation, as if they were about to witness something unforgettable. For a fleeting moment, I let myself hope. Maybe, after years of sharp looks and subtle digs, Carlos was ready to accept me as family. "From all of us," he declared, his voice ringing clear across the room. My husband, Javier, adjusted his phone, filming with a steady hand. His sister, Sophia, angled her camera too, her smile sharp as a blade. I took the envelope, my pulse thudding like boots on a drill field. The gold lettering gleamed as I slipped my finger under the seal. The paper tore softly. No warm note, no kind words, not even a check. Divorce papers. The bold text hit me like a punch, each word heavier than the gear I carried back at the base. The room seemed to lose its air. Guests waited for me to break. Carlos's smile widened, his eyes glinting with victory. Javier's phone stayed fixed, eager to catch every crack in my composure. They wanted a show, a soldier's shame as the centerpiece of a lavish birthday gala. But they didn't know me. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I didn't even glance at Javier. Instead, I picked up the pen they'd left on the table, poised like a knife meant to wound. My hand was steady. Years of aiming steady in combat zones had taught me to stay calm when chaos swirled. I signed my name with careful precision. Then I looked up, locked eyes with Carlos's smug gaze, and let a faint smile cross my lips. "Thank you," I said, my voice low but solid. "This is the best gift you could have given me." Javier's phone wavered. Sophia's grin stiffened. Whispers rippled through the guests. Carlos's triumphant look flickered, confusion creeping in. I set the envelope down, slid my chair back neatly, and stood. My heels clicked on the marble floor as I walked out, each step steady, louder than their stunned silence. What they didn't know was that 4 nights earlier, I'd already received my true birthday gift. A secret that would flip their cruel plan into the biggest shock of their lives. 4 nights before that birthday dinner, I'd come home from the base earlier than expected. The sky was still dark, and I thought the house would be quiet. The air carried hints of roasted chilies and wood polish as I stepped softly across the hardwood, boots in hand, craving a quick coffee before another grueling shift. But as I rounded the corner into the kitchen, I stopped cold. There was my mother-in-law Maria, sitting rigid at the table as if she'd been waiting for hours. Her glasses sat low on her nose, a gold chain catching the dim light. Spread before her was a tidy stack of official-looking documents. She wasn't just reading them, she was marking them with precise red slashes, her pen moving like a surgeon's scalpel. My step broke her focus, and her head snapped up. For a split second, I saw something new in her eyes. Not her usual disdain, not even annoyance, but a predator's calm, like she'd finally trapped her target. "Good morning, Carita," she said, folding the papers swiftly for someone her age. She slipped them into a glossy cream envelope adorned with gold stars, tucking it into her purse with practiced ease. "Just some estate papers Javier needs to sign," she added too quickly. "Nothing for you to worry about." Querida. The word hung oddly. She'd never called me that. To Maria, I was always Javier's wife, never Lucia, never family. Her sweet tone felt rehearsed, not warm. As her manicured fingers brushed the envelope, I caught a glimpse of the top page. 4 bold words burned into my mind before she snapped it shut. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My training kicked in. Face blank, no reaction, give nothing away. So I smiled, raised my coffee mug casually, and said, "Need help with those papers?" Her laugh was light, forced, nothing like her usual clipped replies. No, she said, shaking her head. "This is something special." You'll see soon enough I stirred my coffee, pretending her words slid right off. Inside, a fire roared. I'd faced ambushes in war zones where every shadow hid a threat. But this was betrayal at my own table. Yet, as I left for the base that morning, those 4 words heavy in my mind, I carried a secret of my own. A secret that in just a few days would make Maria's smug plan her greatest mistake. After that kitchen encounter, every family event felt like a courtroom where I was on trial. Maria played the judge, Sophia the sharp-tongued prosecutor, and Javier, the man I once trusted, sat silent like a jury already decided against me. At a family barbecue, I wore my crisp uniform, medals polished, hoping my service might earn a nod of respect. Instead, Maria lifted her glass with a smile too bright to be real. "To Sophia's new law firm partnership," she toasted proudly, then turned to Javier, "and to my son's booming tech startup." Her eyes skipped me entirely, as if I weren't there. When my turn came, I mumbled thanks for health and family, my voice barely carrying. They nodded, some with tight smiles, others with pity that stung worse than silence. Sophia leaned in, her lawyer's charm razor sharp, and asked, "So, Lucia, still patrolling fences?" Her chuckle was soft but cutting, and before I could answer, Maria chimed in smoothly, "She's weighing her options." The words painted me as aimless, small. At a cousin's quinceañera, the pattern grew sharper. Maria handed Sophia a velvet box with a sapphire necklace. Applause, murmurs of praise, and admiring glances followed. Then Maria slid a newspaper-wrapped package across the table to me. I peeled it open to reveal a book. Ascending the Corporate World, A Woman's Guide. The message cut through the mariachi band's festive notes in the background. "You're not enough as you are." Each family gathering pressed their judgment heavier. Every uniform I pressed, every medal I shined, seemed invisible in their world of attorneys, surgeons, and yacht club elites. Yet, not every gaze judged me. At the table's edge, Javier's grandfather, Colonel Miguel Vargas, sat upright despite his age. A Korean War veteran, his eyes lingered on me, not with scorn, but with a quiet sorrow, as if he recognized a battlefield beneath the festive tablecloths and sparkling wine glasses. His silence spoke louder than words. He saw their cruelty. He saw me holding my ground behind my polite smiles. In that moment, though surrounded by Javier's family, I felt less alone. Someone understood the war I was fighting. After that morning in the kitchen, I tried to convince myself I'd misread the papers. Maybe those words, petition for dissolution of marriage, were a trick of my tired eyes. But doubt clung to me like dust, trailing me back to the base, into the mess hall, even onto the training field where I shouted commands with a voice steadier than my heart. Part of me still yearned for Carlos's approval. If I could prove my worth outside the military, become the daughter-in-law he might brag about at his golf club, maybe things would shift. So, I started applying for civilian jobs, 75 applications in 6 weeks for clerical roles, front desk positions, office support jobs. Each rejection email stung like shrapnel. "We require a bachelor's degree. Your experience doesn't match our needs." Words that chipped away at me. One polite phrase at a time, I enrolled in evening classes at a community college, chasing a management certificate to dull their contempt. My days blurred. Morning drills at the base, double shifts serving meals in the cafeteria to soldiers who barely glanced up, and late nights poring over textbooks until my eyes burned. Exhaustion etched shadows under my eyes. My uniform hung looser each week as I lost weight I couldn't afford to. At home, Javier was always on his phone, fingers tapping, screen angled away. When I asked, he'd dismiss me with a vague, "Just business, mi amor?" But one night, thinking I was asleep, I heard his voice, low and sharp, talking to Sophia in the hall. Their laughter sliced through the walls like thorns. Carlos never let me forget my place. "Lucia, some people just aren't built for the corporate world," he'd say, his tone dripping with pity laced with venom. Every effort, every rewritten resume, every late-night study session, he brushed off like a childish whim. I was trained to march under 40 pounds of gear in scorching heat, but this battle struck not my body but my soul. Yet, folding another rejection letter into a growing pile on my desk, a spark of defiance flickered within me. They thought they were scripting my defeat. They didn't know I was already crafting a different story. By January, I was running on fumes. 75 rejection emails filled my inbox, each one a reminder that my service, my sacrifices, meant nothing to the world Javier's family revered. I told myself to keep pushing, to hold on. Most nights, I stared at a stack of unopened letters from colleges, banks, and companies, all politely saying I wasn't enough. One chilly Tuesday morning, I sat at the kitchen table, folding Javier's shirts from the laundry, my hands moving on autopilot. Then my phone buzzed, an unknown number. I usually ignored telemarketers, but something, maybe desperation, made me answer. "Sergeant Vargas," a steady, warm voice said. "This is Ana Morales, HR Director at the Plaza del Sol Hotel in San Diego. I'm calling about your application for our Guest Relations Manager position. Is now a good time?" I froze, breath caught. I'd sent that application months ago, late at night after another of Carlos's lectures, expecting nothing. Yet here she was, saying words I never thought I'd hear. "We were impressed by your military discipline, your leadership, your ability to stay composed under pressure. Those are the skills we need." I gripped the phone, her words sinking in. Someone saw my service as valuable, not just patrolling fences. She described the role of $52,000 annual salary, full benefits, and a furnished studio apartment just steps from the hotel. A lifeline. Housing, independence, a way forward. My pulse steadied, not from training, but from a rare feeling. Hope. For once, I wasn't chasing approval or scraping for respect. Ana saw my worth without Carlos's permission or Javier's half-hearted nod. When she asked if I'd like an interview the following week, my voice was calm, firm. Yes, absolutely. I'd love that after hanging up, I sat in silence, watching sunlight dance across the table. Days earlier, I'd seen Maria's envelope stuffed with legal papers, her plan to unravel me, but while she honed her trap, fate had handed me a shield. I decided then to keep it secret. I'd wait for my birthday night, let them spring their cruel surprise, let them savor their moment. Then I'd reveal mine. That call from San Diego kindled a quiet fire in me, and I carried it silently for 4 days. By the night of my birthday, I wasn't shaking. I was steady, like a soldier stepping into enemy territory with a hidden plan. The banquet hall shimmered like a cathedral, chandeliers casting light over tables draped in cream linen and crystal flutes. Carlos had chosen the venue deliberately. Grand enough to dazzle his social circle, elegant enough to remind me I didn't belong. He moved through the crowd in a tailored suit, greeting guests with warm handshakes, his cologne lingering in the air. To outsiders, he was the perfect host, but I saw the glint of anticipation in his eyes, a predator waiting for the kill. Sophia sat across from me, phone in hand, her smile like a director waiting for the spotlight to hit her star. Javier adjusted his cufflinks, glancing at his phone every few moments, his fingers tapping out covert messages. I didn't ask who he was texting. I already knew. Dinner passed in a haze of small talk. I kept my voice calm, measured, answering questions about military life with restraint. Most of Javier's family barely listened, more engrossed in talk of bonuses, real estate deals, and Sophia's latest legal triumph. To them, my years in uniform were just standing watch at a checkpoint. When the dessert cart rolled out, the mood shifted. A cake arrived, candles flickering as the crowd launched into a lively "Happy Birthday." For a moment, I almost let the celebration warm me, until Carlos stood again, the cream envelope glinting in his polished hands. "A special gift," he announced, his voice sharp with practiced charm, "from all of us." Javier aimed his phone at my face, his expression taut with anticipation. Sophia leaned in, her camera light steady, her eyes fixed on me like a hunter waiting for the kill. I forced a polite smile, reached for the envelope, and slid my finger under the gold ribbon. The room stilled, the paper tore with a crisp, cutting sound. Inside, neatly folded, were the words I'd glimpsed days before: petition for dissolution of marriage. The chandeliers still gleamed, waiters still wove through tables, and guests still held their drinks aloft. But in that moment, silence roared, heavy, expectant, suffocating. The stage they'd set for my humiliation was ready. I sat with the envelope open, the words "petition for dissolution of marriage" searing my vision. The room buzzed with their anticipation. Carlos's lips curved in victory. Sophia's camera blinked and Javier leaned closer, waiting for tears to spill for his video. They thought they had me trapped, shamed before an audience that would spread their story beyond this opulent banquet hall. But the battlefield teaches one truth: Never give the enemy what they want. I lifted the pen they'd placed beside the envelope, a weapon primed for use. My grip was firm. I signed my name with the precision I'd honed signing mission logs in combat zones. When the final stroke landed, I set the pen down and exhaled softly. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady, almost soft. "This is the best gift you could have given me." For a moment, no one stirred. Javier blinked, his phone trembling. Sophia's smirk fractured. Carlos's smile wavered, confidence draining from his face. The guests shifted, sensing the script had derailed. I reached into my purse, fingers grazing the second envelope I'd carried for 4 days, its weight heavy with promise. I set it deliberately beside their gift. "I have something to share, too," I said, my tone even, but each word sharp as a bayonet. Slowly, I opened it, sliding out a letter. The Plaza del Sol Hotel's golden crest glowed under the lights. 4 days ago, I began, my voice rising so every guest could hear. While you were preparing these divorce papers, I received an offer. The Plaza del Sol Hotel in San Diego has hired me as their guest relations manager. $52,000 a year, full benefits, a furnished studio included. A murmur swept the tables. Guests turned, glasses lowering, eyes widening. Behind me, applause erupted. Soldiers I'd served meals to at the base, colleagues who knew me as Sergeant Vargas, stood and clapped, their pride raw and real. Then it happened. Colonel Miguel Vargas, Javier's grandfather, rose slowly, his posture rigid, his hand snapping to his brow in a sharp salute. The room fell silent. Carlos's face paled. Sophia fumbled her phone, nearly dropping it. Javier froze, his recording forgotten, his eyes wide with something like dread. Their trial had flipped. They were no longer the judges, but the accused. The applause that night chased me to the hotel doors. It wasn't the polite claps Carlos had expected, but a roaring, heartfelt cheer. Soldiers from the base, cafeteria regulars who'd seen me carry trays for years, even strangers who didn't know my name, they all stood. They weren't celebrating my marriage or Carlos's performance. They were celebrating me. I held 2 envelopes as I walked out, one symbolizing the end of a love I'd once trusted, the other holding the key to my freedom. The night air was cool, sharp. I breathed it deep, like a soldier after surviving an ambush. 3 weeks later, I stood in the polished lobby of the Plaza del Sol Hotel in San Diego, not as a guest, not as someone's wife, but as Sergeant Lucia Vargas, guest relations manager. My new uniform wasn't fatigues, but a tailored blazer, my nameplate gleaming with quiet authority. The furnished studio overlooking the city became my haven. No whispered judgments in the kitchen, no smug smiles across the table, just silence I'd chosen. Within weeks, I earned a promotion, leading a team that respected me, staff who looked to me for guidance. Each raise, each nod of recognition erased another wound Carlos's words had left. Maria, who'd once scoffed at me as just a soldier at a fence, now heard her yacht club friends praise my success, my leadership, my name in hotel bulletins and local papers. Javier sent texts, first cautious, then pleading. "Can we talk?" I messed up. I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, light the path ahead. The greatest revenge wasn't shouting or slamming doors. It was walking away with dignity, thriving in my new life, proving without a word that I'd always been enough. Carlos thought he'd handed me an ending. Instead, he'd wrapped my freedom in a cream envelope and placed it in my hands. That night, as I stepped into my future, I realized the cruelest betrayal can spark your liberation.